Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined by both of my co-hosts this week, Tyler Britton and Jacob Boyers. Guys, all three of us were correct. We are all now 2-0 in our preseason / just regular season predictions. I was a little closer with the score this time. I had the Cats only losing by 10. You guys all went a little higher on that one, so I'm going to take the crown for this week. Even though I did play the fence preseason, I had the Cats winning this game. Unfortunately, they fall 30-23 against Lane Kiffin-led Ole Miss Rebels, and just saw a lot of the same things that have continued to frustrate you through the Mark Stoops era. Kept it close, but guys, I just want to get some of your big takeaways before we really start to dive deep into what we're going to talk about this podcast.
Yeah, real quick, Cam, I'll say, I kind of played the fence there with you because literally 30 seconds before kickoff, I was talked into betting Kentucky money line, and I did. And I thought they were going to, I just had that game day feeling that you get 10 minutes before kickoff that, all the negativity that I've been spewing was incorrect and they were going to come out and shock everybody. But, yeah, just my biggest takeaway before we kind of dive into everything is just, if you told me they kept it one score with Ole Miss, I would probably think pregame I'd feel pretty good about it. But I just think in the fashion they lost, the same mistakes we've seen really throughout Mark Stoops' entire tenure and especially highlighted over the past 3 very disappointing seasons. I think just the continuous mistakes and anemic passing offense, I think it just all kind of boiled over to another extremely frustrating Saturday in Kentucky.
Yeah. Tyler?
Yeah, you guys are both down on it, and I get it. It's the same old, it seems like. But I'll be honest, I think there's some positive takeaways to look at compared to last week. We're looking at last week. We're like dogging them on how they played against Toledo. We played an SEC team here that is 2-0 now, but we kept it within a touchdown. We're instead of going for it on 4th and 9. Maybe we kick a field goal there, and then, now we're not kicking a field goal and then needing a touchdown to win the game at the end. Those are some small things that we can work on. But, some things we talked about last week that we need to improve on was being more cohesive on offense. I'm looking at the receiving stats here. Look, these guys were getting the ball a little bit more and getting downfield. We're looking at Kendrick Law. He definitely had his production on 6 receptions, 44 yards. So I think there's some good takeaways. I'm not going to look at this as a full negative game. This is an SEC game. It's a tougher competition matchup, but obviously a little disappointing at the end and just the way we lost. So,
yeah, Cam, I'm going to jump in real quick before you do here because I think this is going to be. I think this is
after that take.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the episode. I think this is going to be the episode we disagree and argue the most there, Tyler. Because I couldn't disagree more. I think. When you look at how we kind of thought this team would perform and how this could kind of play out, the defense was, I think, kind of where we thought it would be. But this offense, once again, was so horrific. You needed back-to-back interceptions on your side of the field just to even muster up any kind of points in the first half. I completely disagree on the take of the receivers. They were bad again. The only time Kendrick Law got the ball was in, a quick screen pass, and then he made some guys miss, which is what he can do. But receivers weren't getting open. When they were getting open, Calzada was missing them. We couldn't get play calls in on time. We burned all 3 timeouts in the first half simply because Bush Hamden couldn't get a play down to the team with less than 5 seconds on the play clock. Guys are lining up in the wrong position. I think offensively, I don't know how there's one positive you could take away other than the running game was fine. But I couldn't disagree more that these receivers and this passing game was anything short of another extremely poor performance. And then the coaching decisions, you talk about the field goal. We'll dive into that later. I actually didn't mind that as much. But the end of the first half debacle was as frustrating as I have been as a UK fan. And it's not the only time that we've seen this. We've seen this for Mark Stoops has been here, 14 years now? 13. We've seen this the entire time. It hasn't gotten any better. Just this offense looked like a team playing their first spring game, the first time they're all getting together. And, I understand it's the second game of the year, but I watched a lot of college football Saturday, and I didn't see this one other place other than in Lexington.
Yeah, and the word that I think Tyler used there that I have the biggest fault with is cohesion. Outside of the running game, there was no cohesion, and even then, we're snapping it with 3 seconds to go with guys running across formations, lining up to get set right before the play clock expires. And that's my biggest complaint of the week is, how many more games can we have where we just have procedural problems? Whether it's pre-snap, how many times did Barry and Brown get called for lining up not on the ball? We had that happen again this week that took away a big play.
5 guys in the backfield.
Yeah, we had that happen again. That's been my biggest gripe with Bush Hampton because honestly, when I go back, part of where I will differ with you a little bit, Jacobs, I think these receivers played a lot better this week than they did last week. Now, granted, that's starting from the floor being at 0 because the week before they were horrible. I think they did really improve. The part in which that I'm the most just baffled by is how between a 7th-year senior quarterback, a play caller now in his 2nd year, a head coach now in his 13th year, how are we not getting plays to our quarterback before 10 seconds on the clock? And then even when we do, at no point are we ever lining up correctly from the jump. And like you mentioned, this looks like a spring game a lot of the times on the offense side of the ball. And part of that reason is probably because we don't have a damn spring game. We go out there and practice for 30 minutes and call it a day while you see teams like Texas and Ohio State put on these grand events for their spring game. We roll out with 100 fans in the attendance because we say something the day before. There's so much to be upset and frustrated with, and it really just starts from the top down. Honestly, it even starts a little bit with Mitch Barnhart, just being able to market this team and be able to get this team what they need. We talk about just like the fan experience of going to a Kentucky game. Tyler, I don't know about you. I love going to watch Kentucky play. That Toledo game, outside of just watching the Cats play and how bad they played, I had no fun at that game. And that's me being a fan who covers the team. I had no fun watching that game. The fan experience sucks. You park 3 miles away and still pay $30 to park. You walk in there. You can't get any cell service. The whole thing sucks right now from the top down. The only thing that's really providing anything is this running game and the defense. The defense keeps you in it, and you only get 10 points out of them giving you the ball twice on the 30-yard line. At what point do you just start to look at it and say, there's got to be a big change? Not calling for Stoops' job. I don't want to call for anybody's job. But it's just you get to a boiling point with seeing the same mistakes happen over and over and over again that you just can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the fans are to that boiling point, Cam. I felt like I was for most of the offseason, and then, you start to get that college football excitement, right? You start to talk yourself into, it's not going to be as bad as you think. But, I don't even remember watching a national broadcast where the announcers were so critical of a coaching staff. Greg McElroy ripped Calzada, ripped Mark Stoops, ripped Bush Hampton throughout the entire broadcast, and it was deserved. It was so on par just to how we've watched this team be coached, especially the last 3 to 4 years. All the mistakes that have cost us games against Vandy and, South Carolina and Missouri over the years, they were all rearing their ugly head again this week. And, Tyler, probably one of my biggest complaints to what you said was, this is against an SEC team. We're 0-8 in our last 8 home SEC games. It's completely unacceptable. And I think that comes back to, the point you make, Cam, about the experiences getting so bad. I'm not going to say I'm out and I'm not going to watch this team or anything crazy like that. But it's definitely not going to be enjoyable going forward to the rest of the year. I'm going to watch this Eastern Michigan game. I'm going to have zero excitement about it. Maybe before South Carolina, I'll start to get juiced up again. But I mean, even if they go out and beat Eastern Michigan by 50, there's not going to be a whole lot that's going to have me ready to go and say that we're going to walk into Columbia and, put a product on the field that's going to have a chance to compete.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think more so on my end, it's as bad as it was throughout the game on the coaching. And we've talked about this before, going back to even last week against Toledo. But, the fact that we're still within 7 points at the end with a shot to win it, I mean, that's a light and day difference from the week before. Yes, there's a lot of things that the coaching staff needs to improve on. And I guess that's where you guys come in as longtime fans and watching it over years. And, that's where I'm maybe a little ignorant to the situation. But the fact that they're still within 7, they're still having a fighter's chance there at the end. It just shows that the pieces can be there. We were talking about last week how the receivers just couldn't get open period. I'm not saying they weren't running bad routes, but at least they were making an effort this time is what at least I was saying on the stat sheet.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I do think the receivers were better. I actually think the play calling was a lot better. But we also get to the point where, the first half in general, we had to use 2 of our timeouts because the play clock was running so low, or we were in the wrong alignments. We weren't set how we were supposed to be. And Jacob, I don't know about you. It seems like at the minimum, you can expect 2 of those timeouts basically per half to be used to avoid a delay game or to delay a decision on whether to punt on 4th down because we can't think of it in the time to do it. And it's just, think about how crucial those timeouts would have been at the end of the first half. Now, granted, we're talking about trying, a 50, 60-yarder with Jacob Cowie. I mean, odds are it doesn't go in. So let's just say that. It is a long kick, but, dude,
give your guy a chance.
We got to have a chance. And, I will disagree with you on the 4th and 9 when we were down 7. The way your defense has been playing, they were playing well enough to where you kick the 3. And let's all call a spade a spade. With 8 minutes to go in the 4th quarter, where in the world have you seen this offense feel comfortable enough where you're like, 4th and 9, that's fine, we'll pick that up? Why would you not take the guaranteed points? I get it still makes it a 1-possession game. If they score a touchdown, it's still 2 possessions. But it gives you that ability to keep it a 1-possession game if they do go down there and score 3, which they did. They scored 3, and then that took it to a 2-possession game, and that's what ultimately led us to where instead of on that final drive, instead of going for the tie there, we had to kick the field goal and then go for the onside kick. That's where one of my biggest gripes is. I understand there are 2 sides to the argument. But, what do you expect Coach Stoops to do at this point? He talks about, I'm going to go with my gut, and then the next week you hear him talk about he's going with the analytics. It's like, dude, just pick a lane and stay in it. We've got to be able to count on you to do something. This is your 13th year coaching this team, and I still don't know what you're going to do in situations like that. And that's crazy to me to not be able to predict what he's going to do.
Yeah, even as a guy that probably would have gone for it, I almost feel like Stoops went for it for the wrong reasons. Like, it almost felt like he, in that situation, wanted to prove everybody that he's not scared to go for it. So he went for it. I think
he hates being called conservative, and he will almost do anything at this point in his career to not be called conservative.
And that's not, that's not where you should be. You should make your decision based on, how you feel about your team and, the analytics and, your gut, whatever the hell you want to go with. But you need to be consistent in that avenue. And I do agree. I feel like he made the decision for the wrong reasons, even if it was, in my opinion, the decision you should have made. But, the point you brought up, Cam, about taking the time out to punt, like, what the hell are you doing in that situation? If you're not going to go for it, let the play clock run out, take the 5 extra yards and punt it as far as you can. Like, it's almost like this coaching staff does not value timeouts, like, at all. Like, you see it, and you see it throughout games in college football and even in the NFL when teams burn a timeout for a stupid reason. It almost feels like it always comes back to bite them. That's always the situation where if you have one more timeout, you probably got a shot to go steal 3 points. And, how many games in a row do we have to watch this team be absolutely dreadful in the middle 8? It is every single SEC game, every single game that you can win or lose, or even against the bad teams. They are so bad in the final 4 minutes of the first half, and then they come out and go 3 and out in their first drive in the third quarter. Every single time. That is where games are won and lost, and we are. I'm sure there's some stats out there to back it up. I don't know what they are, but we have to be one of the worst teams in the country over the last 4 years in the middle eight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to even check for the stats on that, but I didn't have to. I really don't. It's if you watch this team, you know the middle eight is where they've struggled.
Dreadful.
And that's the best way to say it is just dreadful. But I mean, the bad thing is like as negative as I am about this game, it all does feel like it's stuff that is fixable. Now, granted, we've seen it happen for 13 years with Stoops and the time management down the stretch. But the Zach Calzada thing, I don't think Zach played all that bad. The part of Zach that really has frustrated me is his ability to not hit guys open in scheme and in route concepts in which this is where the read is, this is where you're going. That's where I'm the most frustrated with Zach because it seems like outside of that, the balls are usually on target, gives his guys a chance. And outside of, taking a 15-step drop back every now and again, I do like what he does from that aspect. And the only reason I haven't pressed the alarm bells and wanted Cutter in there is that's the exact same thing that Cutter Boley struggles with as well. I mean, he overthrew Willie Rodriguez for the touchdown pass that, would have cut it to 3 at that time. And then the very next possession on 4th down, he's got Kendrick Law and Jamori Macklin both open on hitch routes or first downs and doesn't take either. So, I mean, the same things that we are looking at Zach Calzada and pointing and wanting a change for are the same things that give me hesitation with Cutter Boley. And I get it. I know, listen, there's upside. Obviously, Calzada's already 7th year, and we don't have him for another year. So there really is no point in developing him, and you want to develop Cutter Boley. I don't think there's a winning solution right now at the quarterback position because I don't think you're going to get it from Cutter. I think he's going to end up starting this week based on everything you've heard Stoops say. And I think he's going to go out there. This team's probably going to score 45 points, and everybody's going to be like, oh, it was Cutter the whole time, and then we'll see the truth against South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, a couple quick things. My biggest thing with Calzada is he doesn't look comfortable at all. You mentioned the 15-step dropbacks. I mean, it is very rare that he is stepping up into the pocket and,
I haven't seen him do it yet.
Making a throw. And for me, like that's the biggest thing. You're a 7th-year quarterback, and he, seems very jittery and scared, and it's almost like, back when Sam Darnold was with the Jets talking about he's seeing ghosts, I feel like Calzada's constantly, freaking out about little stuff, and for a 7th-year quarterback, you would expect a lot more poise out of him. I will say, I know Cutter missed that throw, and just his presence in the pocket felt better. And he obviously, missing Kendrick Law on that 4th down is, obviously terrible. But I do think it's a little bit of a different situation when you're coming in with 2 drives left in the game. And then real quick, I'll let you go here, Tyler, but one more thing on the coaching. What the hell was that 3rd and 9 call there with Cutter down? And a QB sweep at that point in the game,
The bad thing is you have Seth McGowan, who's been your best player.
Yes, give him the ball. If you want to run the football.
6.3 yards per carry in this game, and is breaking off electric runs, making guys miss. There's just an absolute threat who, if you guys remember the preseason take I had, starting to come to fruition a little bit there. Now, granted, my 6-6 take is starting to look a little worse and worse as we go. But, yeah, I completely agree with you. It's one of those things, like Shannon Dawson would have said, well, if it would have worked, you would have loved it. But, I mean, neither one of these guys are supreme athletes. They're guys who can get out and move if they need to, but you don't want them out and moving. And let's also think about this. Your first-string quarterback goes down right the series before that. The first thing you do is a 3rd and 9 quarterback draw to get your backup potentially injured and to take a big hit. It didn't make any sense, especially when you got a guy running the ball at 6.3 a carry. I mean, even Dante was averaging 4 yards a carry, and I didn't think this was far from his best game.
Yeah, I think, if your goal was to try to make 4th down more manageable, there was another guy you could have let run the football there. And I didn't understand the call again, but it's just back to I didn't understand a lot with this game, unfortunately.
A question for you guys. I mean, you guys have been watching the team a little bit longer. Do you think that the players are not comfortable because they're not put in positions to be comfortable. I'm thinking like Calzada. I know Calzada. I'll put a little bit on Calzada just because he is in his 7th year. But if they're not going in there confident and comfortable with the game plan, is that more of a reflection on the coaching staff, or is that more of a reflection? I'm not talking about just quarterbacks, but receivers, running backs, linemen as well. Is that more a reflection on the coaches or on the players?
I mean, I guess time will tell, but I will say through 14 games now of the Bush-Hamden offense, I don't see him helping players in any situations. We talked about it last week with the receivers. I think when you look at really good offensive minds, even if guys aren't the best route runners, they find a way to get them space, with the ball. I know there were a couple times the guys were open and the QBs just missed them, but I definitely think it's probably a combination of both. I was a very big defender of Brock Vandergriff last year because I didn't feel he was as bad as his play kind of indicated. I don't know where we're at with Zach Calzada, but I think it's got to be – there hasn't been one thing in 14 games now of Bush-Hamden where I'm like, wow, that was even a really good half of football that he called, let alone a game.
The part that drives me the craziest is just like first week of spring practices, second week of spring practices are where all these, lining up on, trips and bunch and whatever you're running. That's when you work through all these issues. How in the hell are we running through this in week 2? It's where we don't know what side of the field we're lining up on. We don't know who's on the ball, who's off. And
I'll go one step further real quick, Cam. That was happening in week 12 last year.
Yeah, that's part of my point. But, at least this one, that's got to be a receivers coach thing. That is what the receivers coach is there to do. The receivers coach is there to be able to tell you, hey, listen, we're running here. I need you guys 2 here. You're on, you're off. And that's just stuff you work in on one-on-ones. I don't know how much of that Bush oversees. Now, granted, I'm going to give Bush a lot of the credit because guess what? If you get him the play call with 25 seconds left versus 10, we don't have to worry about getting a timeout and worrying about all of that. We can work around with some of that stuff. But the ability to not line up correctly is insane to me. And I put a lot of that on LaDainian Washington. And I get it. It's his first year. But, guys, what are we doing? I genuinely don't understand it. You get this playbook in spring. None of these guys have come in since spring. They've been here for 5 months. How is this a problem? I don't understand it.
I don't understand it either. But to my point, this was happening at the end of the season last year. It happened all year last year. You had a different wide receivers coach last year. This year you got somebody new and you're running into the same issues. So again, I don't know if he's getting the play calls in too late, which that's obviously an issue. I don't know if that's why the receivers are lining up. I'll tell you, the one relatable moment I had with Zach Calzada was when he said, "What the blank are we doing?" That was every fan in Kentucky at that moment, and it's again, I have my issues with him, but this is a 7th-year quarterback that's played in the SEC. He's played in good offenses at Incarnate Word for the level. I would imagine if you go watch those games, Incarnate Word was not nearly as disorganized as Kentucky football, and it's absurdity that we're to this point, we're this far in, 13th year of Mark Stoops, your 14th game with Bush-Hamden, and we can't get the little tiny details right. I think it was Sean McDonough that said this is the stuff that gets a coaching staff fired. And I understand the buyout is what it is, and that's a conversation for the end of the year, but it's so true. You can't be not the best football team and then also have all these little details that go against you. Teams that aren't as talented, I think we could probably say Ole Miss was slightly more talented than Kentucky. I don't think they were insanely the better team.
Wasn't by that much. So.
The way as a worse team you beat someone more talented than you is you prepare and you have good execution and you're not shooting yourself in the foot every chance you get. You're never going to be the worst talented team and go out and make a ton of mistakes and still find a way to win.
Yeah, and just a little bit to the Calzada thing. I think this guy's pressing big time. I think he knows, obviously he knows this is his final year in college football. He sees, hey, Cam Ward went from Incarnate Word, went to Miami, and developed his draft stock into something where now he's the first overall pick. Obviously, we don't think any of us think he has that potential. But I think he's pressing to a whole nother level, and I think that's why you see him not comfortable. Like he's in the pocket, jittery the entire time, and we have. I mean, the protection's been there. Like that's not even been the problem.
Yes.
Where at least when you say this last year with Brock, you give him the out of man, the guy's scrambling for his life. He's doing this. I think he's pressing a lot right now. I don't know what will get him comfortable. I think the Eastern Michigan game would help a lot, but from everything it sounds like, it doesn't sound like he's going to be available or that Stoops is willing to play him this week. So I don't even know what to do after that.
Yeah, I don't know what it would take to get him comfortable, and it could just be a thing where, unfortunately, like his mindset's not going to allow him to, play to his ability. You kind of see that with guys, like stuff goes sideways and they just can't get it back on track. Maybe if he was healthy for Eastern Michigan, like that could, but like I don't know, man. Like there's just a lot of weird stuff, and I almost feel as much as Calzada's pressing, like Stoops is too. I've never heard Stoops talk about an offensive coordinator and express the frustrations that he's expressed them with Bush Hamden. I've never heard Stoops. I mean, Stoops has never really gone out and kind of thrown his quarterback under the bus, and he's done that this time. And he's talked about how much he can't wait to see Cutter. Like, that's not stuff that even when he's kind of made a change in the past that he's really even hinted at. Like, he does a lot of coach speak. I think everybody around UK football is just pressing because they know how bad it is and how bad it can get. And I agree with you. I think everybody involved is starting to press, maybe besides Brad White, because he knows his job is fine and he's doing his thing.
Yeah. And let's put it this way. I mean, if they didn't have the 2 turnovers, obviously the 2 turnovers help a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to get to the point where, obviously, Brad White, tremendous career at the University of Kentucky. The scheme that Brad White runs a lot of the times, where we're just, especially, I get with Ole Miss given a little bit more room in coverage schemes, just because they're running so much up tempo. But the amount of times I see our best corner in J.Q. Hardaway starting 8-10 yards off the ball is driving me insane. This guy is a guy who's got NFL potential. He's going to be a draft pick this year. I get you didn't have DJ Waller on the other side, but we can rotate things around, play a little bit more zone, do something like that. But J.Q. Hardaway's got to be that eraser, and I think he can be. And I think we have to. Brad White's got to be able to have that, be able to do that. I mean, he did get beat for one play. Jake, you mentioned it to me during the game, but I mean, outside of that, I think you feel good about the secondary. The defense was good. Obviously, this is just me looking for something. So obviously, I didn't know where I'm going with this. There's just so much frustration that you start to look for things that you're like, oh, my defense got me the ball twice on, inside the 35, and we still only got 10 points out of it. We let up 30 and lost the game.
But just
that sucks. It just sucks.
Think about that, though. Think about, like, even if the defense plays great, but, like, Ty Bryant doesn't get those 2 picks, and let's just say you make Ole Miss punt from the spot where they threw the interceptions. Like, how many points does Kentucky score in this game, realistically? 13? Like that's a real thing. Like, it's taking your defense to make really good plays to give you a chance to even go score the football. And, real quick on the Brad White point, like, against Ole Miss, like, it's when his scheme probably bothers me the least because usually Kiffin gets a little frustrated and will still try to hit home run balls. But, obviously some of those other teams will live with dinking and dunking you to death. But, yeah, I don't have much to complain about on the defense because I think they essentially scored 10 of your points for you. And I just without those turnovers, seriously, this team might have scored 10 points and my score might have been more accurate of, 34-13 or something.
Yeah, and the troubling part is that, while I say a lot of these things are fixable, I just don't have confidence that they're going to be fixed.
Well,
that's the bigger problem.
If you look at 13 years of data and say, like, oh, this next game's going to be the game it gets fixed, like it's hard to talk yourself into that. And, I'm not going to act like all 13 years have been obviously bad with Mark Stoops. He's been the greatest head coach probably at Kentucky ever. It's, him and Bear Bryant. But even when they were winning, going 7-5 and then 9-3, like there were still these little issues here and there, but you had a good enough offensive coordinator in a couple of those years. You had a good enough, quarterback and playmakers to kind of overcome that. The one year you had the best defensive football player that's ever touched the field at this school, and you're able to kind of overcome it. But it has been so poor the last 4 years. All we heard last year was it was a 1-year blimp. We all disagreed with that statement. We said that it was a trend of the last 4 years that it kind of led to that point to where you win 4 games. And all of that same stuff is still turning its head. Like it's getting to the point, like on the basketball side with Calipari, like I just can't hear like we're going back to work. I can't hear Bush Hamden tell me he's going to go watch the tape and try to figure it out.
I'll take it.
It's the same exact stuff. Part of it is like there's not anything this coaching staff can tell me right now that's going to make me feel better. It is kind of a show me situation. But like these next 2 weeks around here are going to be miserable because seriously, I don't care if they go out and win 63-3 on Saturday. Like it's not like this is a team that just lost to Rhode Island at home. Like there's going to be no excitement that generates from any score from this game. And then you got the bye and then you go to South Carolina. And I just think the 2 weeks leading up to this South Carolina game, there's going to be a ton of negativity around this program, and the program deserves it. And to your point, Cam, of, the game day atmosphere and this and that, like everything, they've done pretty much everything to suck the life out of this fan base. You made the game day experience worse, you made the tailgating worse, and then the product on the field is not near as good. Like, what is there to get excited about?
Yeah, and honestly, you're giving Eastern Michigan a little too much credit. They didn't lose to Rhode Island. They lost to Long Island, which I didn't know. I didn't know that was a football team, if I'm going to be quite frank with you. Anytime I've been told about a Long Island, it's usually come with a heavy hand pour and leads to a little bit of intoxication. So I didn't even know they had a football program.
But I'm not going to lie. I saw that they were playing the Sharks, and I was like, good Lord, is this the college football game day or EA game?
That's
trying to fit in the Sharks.
West right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it feels like. So, I mean, and the thing is, I might take more stock into what they do in this game against Eastern Michigan just offensively, just because if you're not running it up here, you're not putting up, 23 points might be the highlight of our season at this point if we don't run it up against Eastern Michigan. And that's what I'm concerned about. But also, I just want to caution the fans on what they think Cutter Boley is going to come in and do. Because we mentioned it, the talent is there, the arm strength is there. Everything that you want in your prototypical quarterback build is there. He's a redshirt freshman who can't see the field all that well. And that's something that we're dealing with right now in a guy who's just a seventh-year senior. Now, obviously, we got a lot of leeway to work with that, but I want to caution the fans on, even if he does come out and throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns against Eastern Michigan, I still see it being the same problems against South Carolina.
Yeah, I do look at this game coming up against Eastern Michigan as kind of a live practice, and I hate to belittle an opponent because that's how you get yourself in trouble, but, I don't think there's a player on Eastern Michigan's team as a starter that's better than any of the backups for Kentucky. So I think this is going to be a live practice. I think in my eyes, the way I see success in this game is not necessarily like you both alluded to. It's not necessarily the score or the stats you put up, but cleaning up everything that you guys were just discussing about the game, the play calling, how can we get these receivers open and more familiar with the playbook, get some confidence under them. It's just you working on the 2-minute drill and doing it properly. Make sure you're not using timeouts in stupid situations. Like, just clean up the game. If you can play a clean game, I'll be much happier going into some of these other SEC opponents. We're going to South Carolina, but I would say this is more so just a live practice for Kentucky this coming Saturday.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the thing is that the only bad thing is that in these games, you can't really do anything about what we're talking about with time management. Because I don't think at the end of the second half, the middle 8 that we're worried about, we're going to be out there sweating, being able to get a field goal down with 6 seconds left, putting ourselves in the same spot as we were just this week. And the only thing you really work on is the receivers being in the right place at the right time, quarterback making the right read. And I don't know if doing it against Eastern Michigan really tells you anything. The only thing you can really look for is when does Bush Ham like I wish I had a live camera. I wish I had access to the Bush Hamden cam where I could just see when he stops talking so I know when he's gotten the play call in. That way I can be like, all right, this is on Cutter or this is on somebody on the sideline because I know Bush has got the play in. That's what I would want. I'd probably pay more attention to that than I would the actual game film of this one.
Yeah, and I would like to know too. I think it would help us give a better understanding. Like, is he getting the play call in, and then we're taking 10 seconds to figure out which guys need to sub into the game? Like that's the stuff that's like kind of hard to tell. Maybe he is getting the play call in, with 20 seconds left on the play clock, and we're spending 10 seconds trying to figure out which group of guys needs to run on the field. But yeah, there's not a lot that this game's going to show me. One point that kind of reminded me here when you were talking about the middle eight again is like we weren't trying to score at the end of the first half there, and like I completely disagree with the philosophy. I think you try to go get points, especially against a Lane Kiffin offense. Any chance you can get, you should be trying to push it and steal some points there before the half. But like this team was completely lost the second McGowan broke that run. They had no idea what to do. Guys throwing their hands up. Are we going for it? Are we not going for it? And then again, like I don't care if once you get right there on, the edge of the kicker's range and, he's got to try a long one. Just have Zach Calzada roll out, kill 6 seconds, throw it into the crowd. If you weren't playing to score anyway, then who gives a damn if you go out there and miss a field goal as time expires? Like none of it makes sense. So, like, if you really weren't playing to score, McGowan breaks one, you get on the edge of field goal range, just run a dummy play that you can go throw the ball all the way up in the stands and kill 6, 7 seconds and kick it as time expires. Like everything about this coaching staff, like it just goes against like themselves a lot. I feel like we talk about that a lot. Like we say, like if you're going to do this, then you should do this, and then they don't. Like they find a way to make the wrong decision at every turn. It feels like.
Yeah, and in my opinion, how are you aggressive enough to go for it on 4th and 9,
but not try to
8 minutes to go, but not try and score before the half? And also, a lot of the reasons they never have the ability to score before the half is because they're using 2 timeouts before they get there. Yep. I mean, we're never at a spot where we're sitting there and you're like, hey, guess what? We might only have 30 seconds, but we have all 3 timeouts. We're never at that spot. We never set ourselves up properly for the end of the half and the end of the game. And that's probably why we are so bad at the middle 8 and we're so bad at the end of the games. Because if you remember, like when these Stoops teams were going well, these one-possession games were always going in our favor. We were always finding a way to win these one-possession games. I couldn't tell you. I mean, the Toledo one is going to count because it ended up being a one-possession game. But outside of that, I couldn't tell you the last time where it's like, man, got that one-possession win. I mean, it would be Ole Miss last year. And then before then, you're talking about who knows what it was. And that's what I think we have to get back to, because if you're going to want to play that style of running the ball, allowing the defense to give up yards, but tighten in the red zone. If that's what you're wanting to do, you have to find a way to win these one-possession games.
Well, and I'll take it one step further, Cam. Like you talked about the 4th and 9. Like if you truly do believe in your defense as much as I know Mark Stoops does, then why are you scared to give Ole Miss the ball back with 25 seconds after you make a couple of incompletions? Like if you're, you got a pretty solid punter. I know he had a really bad punt in the game, but still, like worst case scenario, you go out there, run 3 plays, and even if you throw it on 1st and 2nd down, throw 2 incompletions, and then you run the ball to kill a timeout. Like if you truly believe in this defense the way Stoops acts like, and you're as defensive minded as you want to act like, then go out there and take some chances offensively and let your defense back you up. But it's back to the point that we made earlier of there's zero consistency in these calls and like a game plan. And I honestly think, and you kind of hear it when he talks about he wishes he would have went with his gut, like there's no game plan for this staff. There's zero of every good coach knows in this exact situation, the game could play out 15 different ways at the end of the first half. Here's exactly how I'm going to play it. A 1-score game in the 4th quarter with this much time left. Here's my philosophy. Here's how I'm going to go for it. Like this coaching staff, it's like they're just like holding on and they're looking around like, oh shit, we just ran on the other side of the 50. What do we do? Let's not get a play call off. Like, like none of it. It's just mind boggling for, a guy that, otherwise seems very detail oriented on his defensive side of the ball. But when it comes to just game management and simple, time decisions, like it's like the last 8 minutes, that middle 8, his brain just melts.
I am generally curious to know what they do in those offensive meetings when they're game planning for the week, because to your point, I mean, situational football. Yeah, I was even looking at that 4th and 9 play. I wasn't necessarily in favor of the fade route, just given how much space you really had. You didn't really have a lot of space to make a breakaway. I'm thinking, if you're 4th and 9 and you have to have the play to get the first down or get a touchdown or whatever the case may be, like you have to have something else different in that spot. And I feel like a lot of the other schools in the SEC, the Big Ten, especially the ones that consistently do well, they all have those plays. They all have them to pull from.
They know what they want
to make those plays. Yeah, they know what the situation is and they just roll with it. And much to your guys' point earlier, it's like when they make the play call, it's like, oh, now it's a fire drill. Now we have to get some players out there for a whole new formation. That should already kind of be in your head. Like, what happens if we go nowhere? What happens if we get 5 to 10 yards? What happens if we get a 15-yard game, like or 20-yard plus game? Like, those should already kind of be situational in your head. And for whatever reason, it's in my experience, I've only been watching the team since Bush Hampton came in, but like that's been lacking the entire time I've been here. It's just there's not really situational awareness for any part of the game, at least on the offensive side. Defense, Brad White, I'll give him some credit. They're always doing their thing, but on offense, what are those meetings doing? Like, what are they thinking about off season, in season, the week of the game, day before the game? Like, they're not sleeping on it. They're just rolling in and they're like, okay, cool. Ask Madden. Like that's their game plan.
There's not a game plan. And again, like on 3rd and 9, if like, hey, we want to go for this pretty much no matter what, like let's maybe not try a 30-yard pass.
You did it earlier in the game.
Yes, like let's maybe not, try to hit the home run on 3rd and 9. If you want to try to hit the home run on 3rd and 9 because you're going to kick the field goal, that's fine. Or to your point, if you have a Will Levis and a Wan'Dale Robinson, Cam, I think, and you have a offense that has shown you stuff throughout the year and you feel confident in the 4th and 9, but there's no, like, it was the same thing a year ago. There was never a point where we felt like that offense last year could go out there and make one play for 9 to 10 yards. I mean, let's go back to the Georgia game a year ago. You got the number 1 team in the nation here, and you got 4th and 8 at that point, and you decided to punt the ball from your 50. But then in this one, like, do you have more confidence in this offense this year to go out and get 9 yards? Because I don't. So, like, if that's your philosophy, like, none of this is adding up. You gave the ball back to Georgia last year because you didn't trust your offense to go make a play. But this year you want to change your philosophy and try to trust the offense. Like, it's the consistency key that doesn't add up.
Yeah, and I genuinely think we're at the point where there's too many cooks in the kitchen for this. Like, it feels like anytime something's being said, it goes through 4 channels before you see it done on the field. Like, especially, like, I mean, think about all the offensive coordinators we've had during Stoops' time. Like, I mean, Shannon Dawson was terrible here. He's doing a hell of a job down in Miami right now.
Yeah. They're all better when they're
Liam Cohen, his second year. That wasn't a good offense that second year. The Jags looked great week 1. The guy's a head coach in the NFL. I mean, how much does Stoops have his thumb on these guys and, allow them to not do what they want? He says Bush has, full control of what he wants to do. He said that for everybody that's been here. He's never – I think the only person he might not have said it about was Eddie Grant. And Eddie's probably, the second best offense coordinator we've had in that time?
And Eddie's probably just an extension of Stoops to
exactly.
to a degree. But, Eddie Grant, for his faults, you at least knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to run the football. He wanted to, let Terry Wilson take a shot here or there and, try to make a play. But, like, we talked about it last week. Like, I still don't understand what Bush Hamden's philosophy is. I guess I got to go back and watch Boise State tapes to figure it out, because at Kentucky, like, there's no consistency. I know what he's trying to do here. And, every OC that leaves ends up going on to have really good success elsewhere. And, even Scangarello got right back into the NFL. I understand that. Yeah, and I understand that that's the Scangarello thing. Everybody said it didn't work because he made the game too complicated and this and that. But what are we doing now? Just issuing the dumbest.
We're paying these guys. This is a full-time job.
I agree completely. But that was what we heard when it didn't work with Scangarello was, the only person that felt like trusted Scangarello was Will Levis. None of the rest of the guys could figure it out, and it's I don't know, but I tell you this, I could see a world that Bush Hamden gets fired and goes back to, a Boise State level school and has success again. And who knows, maybe in 5 years he's back in a Power 5 or Power 4 program.
I think we're also to the point now, if you're an up-and-coming offensive coordinator, why in the world would you go pair up with Mark Stoops? I get you could look and say, oh, Liam Cohen's in the NFL now. He did that because of his time in Tampa. That didn't happen because of what happened at UK. It did that first year with Will and Wandale, but let's also be honest. I think the three of us could have got a nice scheme that would have gotten that offense going. It's the best offense we've had. So I don't see it getting any better with Stoops at the helm, and that's what ultimately makes me the most scared is that. That's why I haven't been quick to rush and say, oh, this is Bush's fault. Because when you watch this game tape, the receivers are open a good amount, and Zach's just not hitting them. But then you also look at the game tape, and you're like, 3rd and 9, we're running a quarterback draw with a redshirt freshman quarterback we just brought in. But I'm not going to agree with every play call we have, and I think he actually called a pretty good game in this one. I just don't know if we have the guys right now to execute. And there's so many variables that I just don't know who the blame falls on. I feel like it's 40% Stoops, 30% Bush Hamden, 30% Calzada. It's just at some point, somebody's got to be the scapegoat for this. And unfortunately, for Calzada, it's probably going to be him first, then Bush, and then Stoops last. But
yeah,
it kind of sucks to see.
But it feels like we're doing that consistently every year. Last year
Same exact conversation last year.
Yeah, last year it was Brock Vandergrift, and then we put the blame on Bush, and then we put it on Stoops. The year before that, it was Devin Leary's not as good as we thought. I understand. Devin Leary was never going to be a guy that was like a starter in the NFL, but you know what? He's still with the Baltimore Ravens. He's still making a roster. That's a guy that you should have been able to win with to an extent within college. And then it was, well, Liam wasn't as good as second time around, and he wasn't invested enough, and this and that. And then it's back to Stoops, and I feel like we could just keep going on and on. And then the year before, Will Levis was banged up and wasn't as good as second year, and Rich Scangarello's offense was too complicated, and then it's back to Stoops. But it's we're the only SEC team in the last 13 years to not have a quarterback pass for 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. And you had a guy that after the first year of Liam Cohen, everybody thought was going to be a first-round pick, and he probably, if he didn't hurt his shoulder, probably would have been a first-round pick in Will Levis.
I think he was a betting favorite at one point to go 1-1 that offseason.
Yeah, you legitimately had an opportunity to have the number one quarterback. And, if the Colts didn't get suckered by Anthony Richardson being built like Cam Newton, he probably would have went number 4. And, you still, couldn't get any real production while having one of the best playmakers at receiver that we've seen here in the last 15 years. And you still couldn't go out and throw for 3,000 yards with a guy that, with a potential number 1 overall quarterback, a very good playmaker at wide receiver in Wandale Robinson, and a offensive coordinator that is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you couldn't find a way to get a formidable week-to-week passing offense.
You know what this all sounds very similar to?
Just think about that.
The last 3 seasons of the Calipari era.
Yes,
it's what it sounds like. It's that consistent decline in which it goes down every single year, but not enough to where you have to fire him, but it consistently goes down. I get the buyouts there. I don't know if we can call the chicken man down in Arkansas. Maybe they'll help us out again, but it's just I don't know where to go from here. I really don't.
Yeah, it all feels so similar to the Calipari thing. I mean, the fan base is practically over it. People are going to kind of stop going to the games. I don't think
how many fans left that game with like
Oh.
8 minutes left?
And I know people are on them, but like what in the world have you seen from this team to think that they were going to find a way to go win that football game?
I agree.
I mean, I'm not saying like I obviously would have stayed. I watched every second here at my house, and I was screaming "cats, cats, cats." But like, I can't get mad at people for being like, I'm done watching this. I'm leaving. Like the boos were loud. I mean, there a lot of issues, and one other similarity. We criticized Cal for the people he would have on his staff. Like Stoops is kind of doing that now too. I mean, I know the offensive line looks a little better this year, but you gave $1 million raise to a guy that let a quarterback retire last year because he got his ass kicked so much week in and week out. So I don't know. A lot of similarities. I unfortunately am back to the negativity that I had earlier in the offseason where I was saying this team was going to win 3 games. I know I got that season bump and got myself excited, but all that excitement has been kicked right out of me.
Yeah, and I want to say, like, I would be a lot more positive if I thought this Ole Miss team was something as well.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely, watching this Ole Miss team,
they're not great. Austin Simmons is not very good.
Hoops wants to say this is a team that's going to scratch into the playoffs. I don't see a world in which this team makes the playoffs. This is probably Lane Kiffin's worst team he's had since he's been down in Oxford. And I think that this game personally was more of an indictment on that rather than necessarily, how good is UK? And that's why I'm scared, because we're starting to actually face, South Carolina, Georgia, and Texas, teams that are actually that top echelon of the SEC. We're playing a team that right now is in the middle of the SEC, and I don't think they deserve to be there.
No, yeah, and I agree completely. Like, I did not see one thing from Austin Simmons that I thought, like, he was anywhere near Jackson Dart. I know we talked about that coming into the week. Like, I didn't expect him to be.
He got a bachelor's degree at 19, though.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, there's a lot here that, you asked me before the game, like, what would it take for me to be positive? And I was like, it's really hard for me to put a, like, score kind of thing on it. Like, to say, like, if we keep it 1 possession, I'll be positive. I said there was even a world where we could find a way to go steal this game and I wouldn't feel all that great, much like last year where you go out there and you just catch Ole Miss on a really, really bad day and you find a way to just make one weird play and win the game. This whole thing did not – I needed to see something productive from the offense, and I saw 0 still, even scoring 23 points.
Yeah, and the thing is like, this is probably the last thing that I'll say on this game before we give our score predictions for the Eastern Michigan. I genuinely think the offense played a good amount better in this game. I really do. And I think the play calling was a lot better. There's some that obviously we're going to disagree with. 3rd 9 quarterback draw with a 6'6" redshirt freshman who doesn't run all that well to begin with. But I think the offense was actually fine in this game. Obviously, you want to see him do more. But coming off of that Toledo game, was I impressed with what I saw for the most part? Yeah, I think they were better, and I think they have a chance to keep getting better. But for the love of God, when you got a guy who's averaging 6.3 yards a carry and you're just handing him the ball, get him the ball. Like, that's what you want to do. That's your style of game you want to play, especially against Lane Kiffin. You don't want your defense out there taking that many snaps in a row. The fact that Seth McGowan left this game without 20-plus carries is insane to me.
Yeah. It's malpractice, I believe. And again, to your coaching philosophy that we hear, like, all we kind of heard all offseason was like, this team's going to run the damn ball, and occasionally throw a pass and play defense. And it was going to be back to the Mark Stoops era of early football. And this would have been the game to do it. This could have been a game you might have been able to win if you just went out there and handed it off, 3 straight times every single drive. And you flat out didn't do it for some reason.
Yeah, I think that the carry differential has got to start now. Outside of this Eastern Michigan game, I don't care what the carry differential is there. But I think once you start getting into SEC play, you've got to stop seeing basically a 50-50 split with McGowan and Dowdell. I get Dowdell broke off that long run against Toledo. Yeah, he's going to have the athleticism to break those against, a MAC team. You saw the lack of athleticism from him in this game. He's a short yardage back for a reason. He found that out at Nebraska. Let's use him at what he's good at. Use him in those situations where you need those. Guess what? On a 4th and 9 where you want to get 4 yards, or on a 3rd and 9 when you're wanting to get 4 yards to make it a manageable 4th and 5, use him there.
Yep.
But Seth McGowan has got to get at least minimum 60% of the carries. It can't be a 50-50 split like it was this week.
Yeah. Last point before we give score predictions. McGowan is a true SEC playmaker, running back caliber player. I mean, you saw it with him coming out of high school and how highly he was recruited. Like, this guy is a legit playmaker, and, you got to – I agree with you, Cam. He's got to get the vast majority of carries.
Yeah, with all that being said, I don't want him to come next week. Let's keep him fresh.
No, yeah. But at South Carolina, I better see a lot of Seth McGowan out there.
I mean, there's no reason for this not to be like it was with Benny and Chris and a guy who you just have that bell cow who you give the ball to. I mean, Seth is showing that explosiveness and athleticism. And unlike Chris and Benny, he's got
some burst.
Catch the ball out of the backfield, too.
Yeah.
Which you see him, we target him on deep routes in both games. So I love the ability to keep him on the field a lot. In obvious spots where you don't need, that thick back like Dante Dowdell. But, all right, guys, we've beaten the drum of this Ole Miss game. Let's get a little positivity. I don't think any of us are going to pick Eastern Michigan to win this game. So, Tyler, I'll start with you. I don't know if you left for like 30 minutes, but it feels like I haven't heard from you in a while. Give me that Eastern Michigan score, and let's see if it's the same from your one 15 months ago.
Tyler's still here?
Here we go. I'm still here. You guys walked over me a couple of times. I did try to chime in, but whatever.
Speak up.
No,
clear your throat. Come on.
Look, before the season started, we had a 91.3% chance of winning this game. It only went up. It's weird. I know you hate it. It's
you know
right
what?
so
You
far
want to know
this
how you get your voice heard? You go on like First Take and you start acting like Stephen A. And you get louder than the other guy, and that's when you'll get your point across. That's why you didn't get your point across, and that's why your 91% winning percentage, you can take it and you can shove it.
Well, yeah, and if your points are going to be to read the ESPN predictor, then, yeah, I think you can stay quiet. And also, 91% is an insane number. There's no world.
That was to begin the season.
There's no world where you play this game 10 times and Eastern Michigan wins one.
I don't know, but
The world.
Look, I had a 42-10 score to start the year. I'm going to stick true to that. I think that we put up 42 points easy. I hope that we actually don't get that 10 points, but I think that there's some wiggle room there for the defense, especially if they start, I don't want to say resting people, but rotating people in to get some play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stay right in that ballpark with you. I'm going to have the offense scoring 38 in this one. I think we're still going to have some growing pains to work through. I think we'll actually try and keep the game plan somewhat similar to what we are going to try to do, the next week against South Carolina, which is run the ball. So I'm going to see us scoring 38 points. And Tyler, like you mentioned, I do think they're going to try and get new, fresh guys in on the defense side of the ball, try to get some of those young guys reps. DJ Waller, I don't think is going to play once again this week. Not that it's a huge loss for this week, but you need him back when we go to Columbia. I'm going to say 38-10. Tyler, I actually really liked your score prediction there, so I'm only taking and moving it by 4.
Yeah. Oh, look at me, Mr. Old Positivity that everybody's fully expecting. I'm going to pick the most lopsided score of us all, and I'm going to say the offense scores 45 points, and we win 45-6.
Yeah, I was debating on going 45 or 38, but I feel like I've overshot this offense every time, so I'm going to take a step back from gassing up the offense and see if, I can reverse this thing around and see if it's just me that's been jinxing it.
Boyers, is that 2 field goals or is that touchdown missed extra point?
I don't know. Maybe it's 3 safeties. Maybe we'll run 3 quarterback.
He loves having that non-predictability on how he gets the scores. There.
No, I don't.
You heard it first. Put your money lines in here now.
I don't think Eastern Michigan. I mean, again, who knows when the subs come in, but yeah, I think it's going to be tough for Eastern Michigan to score a touchdown in this game.
Yeah, and we're not playing on their great field, so they can't blend into the field either. But guys, that's all we've got for you here today.
Real quick, the real prediction, Cam. Real quick.
Not all we've got for you today. Jacob Boyers has got one last thing to say.
Real prediction. How many empty seats are there for this game? It is a night game, so that helps you a little bit. I think people can.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be as bad as you expect. I expect it to be just about the same as the Ohio game, honestly, just because it is that night game.
Could you imagine if this game was at noon?
If this game was at noon, it would probably be just media and family. So,
We might
unfortunately,
get there for Tennessee Tech. That's the game.
let's hope by then we got some more positivity going, because boy, do we need it in Lexington.
Old positive Boyers is what they call me around here, predicting 45-6.
Old positive Jakey. I love it. All right, guys. That's all from the Cats Talk podcast here. Follow us on Instagram, on X, on TikTok. We are on Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Music. I don't know why a little country accent came out when I just said YouTube. That was terrible right there. But guys, that is all for us. Taking on Eastern Michigan this week. Go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.